Well, that was a kind of a simple but fun patch from the delightful Korg RADIAS. That's what we're featuring tonight on Leader Versus. It is one of the coolest synthesizers. Well, so it's actually it was my second synthesizer following up behind the Moog Slim Fatty. The Moog Slim Fatty is a killer mono synth, but it's very simple. We're talking 2 oscillators creating 1 monophonic voice, like 2 modulation. You know, I did a video on it. Check it out if you'd like to see more about that. I'm sure I'll feature it again. It's a great synth, but it's very, very, very simple. So I decided for my second synth, at the time I was still pretty new, but I wanted something to challenge me and I wanted something that had a ton of options. And honestly, I made an awesome choice, even better than I had known, because it took me a couple years really to wrap my head entirely around the synth. Not that it's that complex, but it just has so much, and I only needed so much at that time. So as I progressed and started thinking, oh, I want to do some more of this and do some more of that, I realized this thing had it all to offer, which was amazing. So let's talk about it real quick. I got a little cheat sheet because there's a bunch of stuff to go over. It arrived in 2006, way back in the day, almost 20 years. It was selling for about $1,500 for just the module, $2K for the module that came with this kind of keyboard, really weird utilitarian style. You have to look it up. It has 24 voices. It is a VA, virtual analog. So we have kind of your standard 2 oscillators per voice. It also has a noise oscillator as well. You have two filters, and those can be run in parallel, serial, or just individual. And what's also really great about that is these are all variable. Each one of those is variable, meaning you can slowly morph between a low-pass filter 24 dB, like a 4-pole, a 2-pole, and then you also have high-pass, band-pass, and then through, which of course is nothing. But you basically get some kind of variation in between those. Hard to decipher exactly what it is, but you can certainly hear it. Also, you get a nice little section with some drive and wave shaping tools. It actually has a very hidden cool parameter I didn't realize for a long time, but it actually has a sub oscillator buried in there, and that sub oscillator really fattens this baby up. I've definitely heard people talk how people think this was a thin synth at the time, thin sounding. I don't really agree. It definitely was thinner than the Moog, of course, but the Moog was massive sounding. But I feel like you can really tweak some great sounds out of this. And honestly, once I discovered the sub oscillator, I totally disagree with the thin sound, but we'll bring that in later. Also has some really cool stuff where it has a vocoder built in, a pretty nice vocoder. It has essentially a full Electribe engine in here. You can create a 16-part drum set, and it can basically use the entire VA setup 16 times. It's amazing. It also has some PCMs in there as well, so if you want to get some like samples, you can add in your own. It's old school, but you get like 60 or 70, maybe more. You also get some dedicated drum PCMs too. You get, what else? You can do the audio in for using with just the effects. Of course, the vocoder as well requires some audio in, so you have those in the back too. It is a phenomenal synthesizer. There's a whole bunch more too, but I guess one thing I'll mention, it is 4-part multi-timbral, meaning you can have 4 separate full-on synth patches all working together, each get their own 2 effect slots, and then you have a master to sit on top of all of them, which is great. And then one last thing to mention is you can actually use the drum machine aspect as one slot of that multi-timbral patch, meaning you could have a drum machine for say patch 1, or I'm sorry, tone 1, I guess. It's T1 through 4. And then you can have 2, 3, and 4 filling out other parts of the song. It does have a step sequence there. It's only 32 steps, but you can do a lot with 32 steps. Excuse me. So you can, this is like one pretty decent step away from a full-on groove box. I wish they had taken that extra step because it would have made it even more amazing, but it's just missing some of those finer things to make it like an actual groove box. So with that said, it's a powerhouse, and it's beautiful, and I love it. It's one of my favorite synthesizers. It always will be. I don't think I could ever sell this one. Anyway, let's take it for a spin. So I guess the first things I'm going to want to do is maybe start off with a keyboard sound to kind of just demonstrate the flexibility we have in here. I forgot to mention, actually, we do have 3 envelopes. Two of them are on the front here that you can control. And then you also have 2 LFOs. You do have a 3rd envelope, sorry, that's hidden. You do have 2 separate LFOs as well, so you do get a fair amount of modulation, and you also have a nice modulation matrix, which can be addressed by creating these 6 different patches of modulation through that matrix. It's a beast. And you can see there is a lot of information on this panel because it operates in 3 distinct ways. One of them being the synth, the other one being the drums. I guess those kind of operate in two ways. So maybe it's just say 2 distinct ways. The drums and the synth operate pretty similar, but then you get also these other controls that are marked in black with white text or clear text, and those are for the vocoder. So when you go into vocoder mode, it kind of changes everything on you, or at least majority of it. And then you have a whole bunch of different pages to go through, lots of hidden parameters. It's a monster. It's a monster, and it's wonderful. So anyways, let's hear it. So this is an initialized patch right now. Actually, it is not, because I had played something. Where are you? There we go. This is just the saw waves, a single saw wave. I'm going to play it polyphonically, so you'll hear more than one saw wave, but it is just a single voice. I'm sorry, a single oscillator playing across these voices. So not a lot in the low end, I'll admit that. It's got it there, but, you know, it's got a little thinness there maybe. But it's still beautiful, and you can still make some amazing basses with the right tweaks. Okay, what kind of patch are we going to start off with? Here, in case anybody would like to join, I am very open to suggestions, so if you hear anything that you would like changed on the synth sound, say, you know, open up the filter a little bit, or maybe make it a little bit brighter or darker, let me know. It'd be great to collaborate. Just going to put that in the chat too. No bad ideas. Yeah, there's some bad ideas, but let's just say there's none. Okay. Alright, first thing I want to do for a keyboard patch is I'm going to actually mess with the amp envelope because I want to get a little bit more of that natural sound that you get from a keyboard, which usually includes the initial strike being kind of loud, like a little pop, and then it comes down quickly and kind of comes down to a softer, milder tone usually, and then kind of mellows out. If you think of like a traditional piano or even electric piano, they're striking something inside there with these things called whippins. They're essentially, you hit the key controls the whippin and smacks either a string for a piano or a tine for a electric piano. Other variations of that too, you know, like the clavinet strings. But anyways, point being, you strike it, you get that initial burst of sound, which immediately calms down, and you go into the natural tone of the string. So we want to emulate that a little bit. So let's go, first of all, let's make sure we're in our first patch. We're going to go into Edit. Once you click this Edit button, you open up this guy to choose the pages you want to affect if there's any buried parameters. Very important. Pay attention to this little area here. These buttons come in handy, but they operate in multiple ways. Quite a few, actually. because you also get a mod sequencer that you can control here, which are these three different here, those there. It can be a keyboard, so I can literally come here and play. Pretty awful keyboard, but it's nice when you need it in a pinch. Trigger is, you know, I guess that would be for drum patches, but I'm not really sure. I've never used trigger before. I have to look that up. Anyway, page selects the page. It's not there right now because we're in edit, but if you hit into program mode, this changes the actual patches and banks. So this changes the banks and this changes the patches. So be careful, because if you are cranking out a sound and you come out of edit mode and you click one of these buttons not realizing it has switched back to program mode, you lose your sound if you didn't save it. So don't like that, but what are you going to do? This is a almost 20-year-old synth. There's not going to be any new patches coming out for it. Not any new firmware updates, I should say. So it is what it is. Okay. I'm not going to worry about the name right now. Let's go over to the amp page. We got amp and envelope, but let's start with the amp. Come down here. Okay, this is just the amp. Okay, this gives us level, pan, drive. Okay, so we want the EG, and it does tell us EG1. EG1 is filter, so we're going to go over by using the cursor, or page button, I'm sorry. EG2, which is our amp. Okay. I could have just been messed with it here too, but I wanted to see if there was any extra parameters, and there are. It has one of my favorite features, curve. You don't get, I don't think, yeah, you just get to set it in a static fashion. You don't get to really adjust finely tune how it plays, but this is nice. So for example, what I mentioned before with pianos and electronic pianos, you're going to strike and it's going to come in kind of hard. So I'm going to actually try this. I'm going to try mid, logarithmic mid curve. So it basically, instead of having a linear approach to our attack phase, like a straight line from whatever setting you make, it's going to go a straight line. This is going to come a little hard in first and fade into the top. So gives us a little bit more of a natural feel. Okay. See what else I got in there. Okay, those are different ones. Level, volume, those are intensity according to the velocity of playing. Key track, which has to do with measurements of the keys. We'll go over this stuff though. We don't need it right now. Let's go up. Okay, we just have our regular envelope. I do wish they had extra stages, but they did not do that in here. So let's try and make sure all of our parameters are in a relatively good fashion. I'm going to go with a short decay of about 30 out of 128. It's not bad, but we can you know, we're not going for perfectly realistic anyways. It's not possible, but to get pretty close, I think a little bit more decay, a little bit more sustain. A little less decay, a little less sustain, just a hair. I like that. I think that's good. I would add more. I would add a extra stage and have it slowly decay down, like an extra decay, if you will, which you can find in some synthesizers. Have that extra step. We don't have it here, so that's about as good as it's gonna get. I think we're okay with that. Okay, let's exit out of there by, well, let's face it, we're in page. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to oscillators, and let's just hear if we got what we have for our different oscillators here. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but the oscillator 1 and 2 both have traditional standard waveforms. You have a saw, square, triangle, and sine. The square is modifiable pulse width, which, if I remember right, I guess that's probably a buried parameter, which is a bummer. It could be one of these controls. These act as multiple things depending on what you have for the oscillator mod. But I don't know. It's in there though somewhere. Let's actually, here, we'll look right here. Let's see if I go to square, waveform, cross. Oh, I think the waveform. Yeah, there it is. Interesting, there's like two. I'm not sure how both of those. Oh, That's a mod for the LFO. So it doesn't tell us here, but if you look on the page as I'm wiggling them, they actually grab the parameter, which is very nice. Okay, so wave control 1 is going to edit the pulse width. Control 2 is going to edit the LFO modulation of the pulse width. We're not going to mess with that yet. I'm probably not going to use a square, but we might. Triangle here. Very nice clean triangle. And then of course a sine wave. Oh, it almost sounds like a pan drum. Or I mean a steel drum. A little bit. Okay. Well, let's see. What are we going to choose? Oh, I didn't finish what I was saying. So we also have some formant waveforms, which we can kind of give you those vowel sounds. Maybe if you want to try to get like an old classic, what was that guy? Oh, Peter Frampton, I think, who did the voice box guitar thing. Get something similar with that. Noise. Straight up noise. You do get some, what does that change in resonance? Yep. And then you can also mess with the filter. The cutoff, I assume, is what it's supposed to affect there. That's pretty cool. Alright. And we'll just clear those up. Then you get synth PCMs. So you get a bunch of these. So it's the second one. Is the first one control. Control 1 does nothing. That's interesting. Alright, so we got stage piano, electric piano. Bunch of those, whirlies, clavs. So we get some interesting choir pad. Ooh. Reminds me of the water stage in Super Mario 64. Some nice little sound effects kind of stuff. I wish they had made these wave tables and we could have adjusted those. They're not. They're just straightforward, simple PCMs. That's not bad. I'm going to bring in the EP Whirly. So you do eat up that oscillator there, so you cannot add anything else to it. You can hear what these os mods do, oscillator mods. Oh, wait a minute. Oops. Well, what does that do? Oh, only waveform can be selected. Yeah, nothing. Okay, so it's just that. These controls don't do anything except for select which PCM you want to use. We do, of course, have a second oscillator. And with this one, I'm going to bring in the triangle. Cool, we're getting there. I might bring up the semitone all the way up to 12, 1 octave above. There we go. I'm going to come back to this amp envelope again and probably bring that sustain down just a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay. We're getting a good bass sound. It is a thinner sound, I won't lie. Those PCMs don't have a whole lot of weight in them. Just in case anybody thinks I'm going to call this a thin synth, I am not, but I'm just admitting we're not getting a big beefy sound out of this thing right now. Okay, I like that so far. I might add a hair of noise in there, just a little bit. Yeah, maybe even a little bit less. 13, maybe down to 7, 9. Let's try 9. You almost can't hear any of that. Maybe you can't. Maybe it's just me thinking I can hear it. But it adds a nice little bit of hiss to it. Okay, well, let's play around with the filter now. Oh God, I'm sorry, we got some people here. Hey, can't see the Korg? Oh, jeez. Thank you. There we go. Jeez. Thank you. Rookie mistake. Forgot to change my little scene here. Okay, now we can see it. That's a bummer. I probably lost those guys. Okay. So we're in the middle of this patch here. We're trying to build. Yeah, we're trying to build a nice little keyboard sound. So next we're going to bring in some filter. Kind of the main place I go to for some character in there. We've got filter 1. We have it set up for single. I'm going to change it to serial because I actually might want to use the second filter to kind of do some cleanup at the end. So right now I've got that all the way open, resonance all the way closed. That way when we don't have to worry about filter 2 right now. I'm going to reset the envelope amount, the key track also to, there's a nice little detent in the middle. That's pretty nice. So you don't have to eyeball it. You can really feel where it ends. Let's bring the resonance down. Bring that up. Let's hear what we got. Okay, here is an actual criticism of this thing. The filter is okay. But it is, you know, this is 2006 virtual analog. You're not. It'd be lovely if it had a really banging filter, but it just doesn't. Korg has done some great work in the past by adding analog filters. I wish they had done that for this guy. It would have been really great. So what are you gonna do? I believe it does resonate though. It sure does. I know that for a fact. Somewhere. There we go, a little. Not super much. Actually, you know what? I'll have to see if I can do a full ping resonance, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to mess with the variable filter. So as I mentioned before, it goes from 24 decibels, the 4-stage low-pass filter. Then you have a 2, which is going to be 12 dB. Then goes to high pass, band pass, and then through. So let's hear what it just sounds like by going. Oh, let's put a little filter on there. We're going to go 6 o'clock. Really jumps into that high pass. You can kind of find a nice little medium. Of course, it loses a lot of volume there. Well, I'm very partial to a 4-stage low-pass filter. So I'm going to bring it, I'll put all the way at 24. And we'll bring the cutoff down about where I want it to finish. This will aid us too with a little bit of that timbre change you get when you strike something hard. And we can bring it down. Okay, so now let's bring in some of our envelope. EG1 intensity. Now we can come over here and actually mess with our envelope. I'm going to give it a decent decay. We'll bring the sustain down. I want to match what I have for the release, which I'm actually going to increase just a little bit. Maybe a little less on the decay and a little more on the sustain. Okay, so we're getting there, but one thing I just really got to fix now is the velocity sensitivity. Vital for me when I'm creating any synth sound, really, but particularly keyboard sounds, because if I'm playing lightly or I'm playing hard, there's no difference. So very just static. You're getting the same exact velocity. So let's figure out where that is. Most likely it's going to be in the amp area, which I think I did come across earlier. Let's see, level, key track. Key track is probably referring to, oh yeah. So now, I mean, we can use a little bit of that if we want. So basically what that's doing is it's using this tilt concept. So as you increase the key track, everything on the right from middle C is going to be getting progressively louder, and everything on the left from middle C is going to get progressively quieter. You know, that can help a little bit. Obviously, when you're playing piano and such, you're going to get a higher volume out of higher pitched strings. But you can also do that, I think, better. Well, maybe in combination it'd be great, but if you only had one, you'd be better to do that with the filter. But that's not what we're looking for. So I wonder where the velocity intensity is going to be. Let's try utility. No, that's more like patch program stuff. So let's try, well, let's see what common says. Probably not. That's the vocoder, panel link, drums. Nope. Nope. This is MIDI settings and keyboards. Attachment, peripherals, foot pedals, that kind of stuff. Pitch. I know it's in here somewhere. We are going to find it. Mento, bend range, analog tuning. Oh, that's kind of fun. I forgot about that. You have, it was actually set to 5, which gave us a slight bit of phase. Here, let's crank it all the way. Oh, God. That sounds awful. The idea they're doing here is that this is obviously a digital synthesizer. It's not digitally controlled analog. It is straight up digital. So you are getting a straight, clean waveform. No disturbances from temperature or anything, or age or anything like that. So they're giving you a little bit of simulation here, so you get a little bit of more character. Because honestly, it can be really cool to have a very, well, for lack of a better word, sterile sound, a very clean sound when you're making some patches. That can, obviously all sounds are great, and I like to have the option to do any of them, which is nice. You can do that here. But generally I want a little bit of that variance, just a taste of the chaos, and that way you get a nice, you get a thicker sound, you get a more warm and realistic sound. I think 12 is nice. Cool. Well, still haven't found what I'm looking for though. Kind of had to fight the urge to try my attempt at a Bono impression there. Oh man, what do you gotta do this to me for? Yeah, it's not there either. Okay, I guess, well, you know what? Well, it could be buried in there somewhere, but I'm gonna go ahead and engage the mod matrix. We're gonna go ahead and solve this ourselves. So maybe this is the way to do it and I just forgot. I'll be honest, I haven't had this very nice synthesizer out in probably over a year. I got too many synthesizers, and yeah, I use this one a lot in some early recordings and I love it, but it's like, you know, you use something a lot, you want something new, and you end up putting the thing you used a lot away for a while. And I did that. Okay. Where's the amp? Where's just amp level? And the intensity, ooh. Can I go negative? But I don't want to go negative. All right. Let's go to 38, which means I'm going to come over here to offset this. What I just did right there is I added intensity from this velocity, which is the source, to the amp level. And you hear, as I play a little, here, I don't know if you can see my finger. So that's what we're going for. I'm going to actually increase that to 45, but now I have to go back and offset where I have the volume, because it's going to start from here and burst up, which means I'm going to hit the ceiling and not get that full 45 intensity, if you will. So we're going to back this all the way down to, let's say, 70. There we go. Tweak that a little bit more later because I feel like it's not quite there, but I am going to go ahead and do this same thing with the filter. I wonder if the filter has a built-in. We'll just check really quick because that is pretty common. Velocity sensitivity. Oh, why wasn't it on the amp page? Oh well. All right, let's bring the cutoff down. interesting that it's, let's see if, I'm losing a lot of the, oh, maybe not. I'm just gonna put the release a little longer. I feel like I'm losing some of the decay stage because of the velocity sensitivity. Better. Let's mess with the filter a little bit more. For me, sound design is all about back and forth, like you're constantly adjusting one thing only to then come back and adjust something else. Because more often than not, every setting has an effect on the overall sound and also the individual parameters. So an adjustment in one place essentially adjusts the other one. Too much. Back off the intensity. Let's do 15. But now I have to increase the cutoff a little bit because it went too low. That's a little better. So another awesome thing about this guy is that it does in fact have 2 insert effects per timbre. So 4 timbres, multi-timbral, and each one of those has 2 effects. So you get a total of 8 effects on here plus your master effect, which sits at the top of all of them. So that, oh man, again, a modern synth is going to have more sound. It's going to sound a little better and all the other things. So you're not going to get all that same power, but it's amazing back in 2006 you had a pretty darn good sounding synth. In my opinion, great, but not everybody's. But it still offered you tons of voices, 24, I think. And then you also have the effects, the sequencer, the vocoder. I mean, it is just packed. Okay, let's mess around a little bit more. We're going to create some more patches in what they call the virtual patches for the mod matrix. So let's bring in LFO1. What should we have that effect? Maybe we should do a little pan, just a tiny bit. Do the intensity here. You can actually control the intensity right from the knob on the page here, on the front panel. What we don't get, it's a bummer, I don't see any delay. Well, let's see. Let's go to LFO. 1. Ooh, what am I talking about? We got all sorts of options here. Okay, shape, wave, tempo sync. We don't want tempo sync. We'll keep the frequency low, key sync off, and we still don't have delay. Okay. Bummer. Basically, the LFO is going to be on and off. So for example, that right there is way too slow. We also get to control some of the LFO parameters right from the front. Let's bring the intensity down. So I just brought the frequency down a little bit and increased the intensity. So I want it to go back and forth across the pan. I apologize if I didn't say that, but I set the destination for the pan for LFO1. You can kind of hear that. We'll bring the intensity down to 3. Cool, that doesn't sound too bad. Did we bring in? Yeah, we did. We have second wave here. We're doing a PCM. Okay. Most times I'm just going to use the oscillators, the raw oscillators. I'm not crazy about the PCM wave files for the keyboard sounds, but I thought it'd be nice to try, and it's okay. But we're definitely missing something. So we're going to pull out some effects, which will help. I know what I'll do. We're going to double click so we get to the wave shaper setting. We're going to turn this guy to depth. Well, let's just turn it all the way down first. Now we got to get to these little back parameters here. So it says position preamp. That's fine. Wave shaper type, WS type, decimator currently. Let's see what that sounds like. That's kind of nice. I like that. What else we got? Hard clip. That's actually kind of great, but I do want to test something out before I commit to that. Octave saw. You know, one thing is, I think one bummer. Oh no, I can do that. Right? I can change preamp, pre-filter. There we go. I was gonna say that these sounds basically come after filter, but I forgot about I can change the position. That definitely. So that's the sub oscillator. That is a saw sub oscillator. We get square and triangle. Let's hear what the square sounds like. This is what I was going for because it really adds some beef to that low end. Ooh, that is nice. Let's just hear what this triangle is going to sound like. Ooh. I think that's the winner. Ooh, man, that gives it like a... down. That sounds pretty banging. That sub oscillator really brought out the synth PCM sound to me and makes it sound more like a Rhodes, well, kind of like a Rhodes and a Whirly mixed together. That's really cool. I actually like that quite a bit. Okay, let's keep that. All right, well, we've used a decent amount of the stuff going on here for the keyboard sound. I don't think there's much else I'm going to use in terms of just general synth parameters. I'm going to move over to the effects now. This can be a little confusing. If you look here, this little guide, it's showing you that when you are an FX1 or FX2, I would have probably, if I designed this, I would have just made these toggle switches so that you could switch on one or the other. Maybe they didn't want them. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't do that. But what you do is it tells you if you hit on, you're now in the effects area. You can see it says it's on, and it's showing you it's on by having the on button lit up. If I want to go to FX2, I push this, and you can see now this is on. And now together, they're telling me FX2 is on. So when you're in FX1, nothing. FX2, lights up. Regardless of which one you're in, the on will light up to tell you if it's on or not. It's a little confusing, but it makes sense once you get, used to it. Ton of effects in here. Just a ton. Excuse me for a second. A ton. So, stereo compressor, stereo limiter, stereo gate, stereo filter, stereo wah, stereo two-band EQ. That comes in handy when you're developing a big patch with multi-timbral, many timbers. Distortion, cabinet simulator. That might be nice when we want to mess around with maybe a more kind of Rhodes coming through a twin reverb. That could be nice. Let's check that out in a minute. Tube preamp simulation. Okay. Stereo decimator, reverb. Reverb's decent, I will say. Early reflex, so that's going to be a type of reverb, I believe. LCR is your delay, multi-stage delay, I think you would call it. Stereo delay, auto pan delay, stereo auto pan delay. Now you're starting to get into some combos here shortly. Mod delay, stereo mod delay, tape echo. Okay, stereo chorus, ensemble, stereo flanger, stereo phaser, stereo tremolo. I think they could have just called these tremolo. Everything's stereo. You could probably just told us when it wasn't. Stereo ring modulation, pitch shifter, grain shifter. Ooh, the grain shifter's fun. We'll get to it. Stereo vibrato, rotary speaker, talking mod. That's all. So I was wrong. I thought there was some mixes, but I guess that was with the... I don't remember what synth that was. So let's get a little chorus in here first. I think that's a good place to start with. Well, already that sounds pretty darn nice. Not bad. I'm gonna have to tweak just a little bit. Let's see what we have. Let's try the frequency. A little slower. Yeah. LFO spread. It just sounds like it's getting a little wider. I'm going to stick with 120. I think it was a little higher initially, but mod depth sounds good to me. I don't want to get any more. 50-50, yeah, I think that's a good setting for chorus. Get just a little bit of phase from your non-chorused dry line. LFO frequency. Oh, that's letting us change. We can actually, that's cool. I gotta admit, that's pretty cool. There's a whole lot of customization you can do in here, which is surprising again for a 2006 synth. I almost said 2,000-year-old. The for example, you can alter what some of these buttons do, what some of these knobs do, I'm sorry. You have these edit 1 and 2 for your effects. They're quick access. You can change and go through pretty much every parameter and set that up there. So if you're doing some performance or something like that, or you just know you're going to tweak that parameter a lot, you can go ahead and change it. Very nice. Also, I really love this. You can effectively tell the synthesizer what MIDI CC you want to control any sort of parameter on here. So you can define, say you have a controller and it's a pain in the butt to edit on the controller. It's much easier to edit on the Korg. You just figure out what CC it's sending out, and then you tell it in here to receive that CC for that parameter. Very cool. Man, I wish every synthesizer did that. I don't know what stopped everybody else from doing that, because that is brilliant. Anyway, let's get back to this. Okay, I really like this so far. We're going to turn on FX2. If you noticed, FX1 was on. I push that. FX2 is off. Also indicated on the screen here. Click it on. Scroll over to the actual effects slot, and we are going to try that cabinet simulator. And we should have some cabinet types. TWD 1x8. TWD. Not sure. I believe the black is supposed to be a Fender Twin. I could very well be wrong on that, but let's hear. Well, that clearly modified that quite a bit. I'm not really caring for this so far. It sounds like with it off. Oof, it just sounds so good without that on there. We might not be able to use this at all because it ain't helping. It ain't sticking around. The modification, let's go with that, is really ruining it for me because of the space we're getting from the, almost sounds as I switch. I don't know, being stereo, but it's not. Sadly, that is a no-go. If I was making a lead sound, like especially a guitar sound, I think those would probably be great, but we're not doing that right now. Yeah, gotta have that stereo in there. Well, let's leave the reverb off. I'm gonna put that on the master. Let's see if we can find one more area to improve. Oh, is the tape echo going to be? No. That's not bad. I like it. I'm happy with it. I say we keep it. Let's write it. Okay, so to do so, we come here and click write. You can see it tells us what the is L01. We were in bank L. I think it goes up to P. And you get 16 patches per bank. So this is bank number 1. I'm not going to worry about naming it or anything like that. So I'm just going to make sure I hit Y again for yes. Writing. It is there. It does say initial timbre still because I haven't changed the name. But I'm happy with it. Let's move on to timbre number 2, which we can't do yet because there's something I have to do. Oh, that's right. What do I got to do? Let's see if I can do it in here. So let's go page, name, timbre. Oops. Aha, right? Nope. Not letting me. There, you have to turn something on. There it is. Boom. So it's under the timbre, which makes sense for the timbre select, timbre page, and you're going to click that on. And now we're going to have 2 of the same sound. Oh, good. No, it's an actual initialized timbre. So there's probably a shortcut that I wish I knew because I want to turn this one off. Okay, let's make a wonderful pad. So now we are in timbre 2. We're going to hit edit. I have disengaged timbre 1, you can see here, so that's just muted right now. Let's go ahead and start off by picking out our waveform. So if we come up here, we've got our 4. We also have our PCMs and various others. I think we're going to do a pad. Let's try some more PCMs. I think they're good. They're fun. Oops, this is the second one. Let's find something that has a nice little, I don't know, a little bit of maybe some variance and changing. I'm going to get this air pad right there. Ooh. Yeah. I got a special place in my heart for a choir pad of this nature. It's funny, I listen to a lot of Pat Metheny. He's one of my favorite guitarists, favorite musicians of all time. And he played music oftentimes with a guy named Lyle Mays, who I believe passed away not too long ago. And his keyboard sounds, when I first started listening to Pat Metheny, would make me cringe. They are just so 80s and early 90s cheesy. I mean, it's like if Enya decided to play keyboards with Pat Metheny. It's very, very, very that new age, that sound of that time. So I didn't like it at all as a kid. I thought it was the worst part. I always fast forward whenever one of those parts came on and just get to the Pat Metheny solos. And anyway, over time, my tastes have changed. I've come to acknowledge that I actually do like some of those sounds. I think they're interesting. They can be still very cheesy, and I can still enjoy them, which I think is perfectly fine. But anyway, I went back and started listening to those songs again, and man, there was a lot of that kind of early Korg wavetable sound, breathy, airy, synthesized voice. And so now I love it. Now I hear it and I want to make it better. I know that's kind of I don't know, big-headed because Lyle Mays was very accomplished and amazing, but I want to make those sounds better for me. No offense, Lyle. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to pick this guy. Let's go ahead and make it easier on our ears by affecting the amp envelope. We're going to go ahead and bring the release up, the attack up, so we get a nice slow entrance. We're going to bring the decay about even, about sustain about even there. So we got to increase the decay. Sounds like it's actually not happening at the same speed or rate as the attack. Maybe the sustain's too high, that's why. Really got to get this decay. Wait a minute. Oh, it was. I guess I was eyeballing it. It didn't look right. So now they're even. Well, close to it. Fine adjustment with this guy. That's a nice thing. Still seems like that decay is coming. Oh, you know what? Let's mess with this right here, the logarithmic. Let's try soft. That's better. Okay. All right, let's now add a little bit of a second oscillator. It might not even full volume. It might just go a little bit. Maybe something a little softer. Ooh, you know what? Let's bring a little ring or sync. Let's try square. It's interesting. I can't really hear. Because I had the sync. That's why. So if we turn the sync off, then I can actually. Let's do a little octave above. 12. Oh, 12 semitones above. Oh, the tune button. I missed that. Okay, that's what was going on. I had accidentally had this set, and that was the fine tune. Let's try an octave above. Come on, fine tune the button here. Nope, let's go the other way. Let's go 12 down. Now I think we got to keep it even, and then maybe I'll add the sub-oscillator later to get the sub-oscillator later. That sounds weird. Okay, that's starting to sound pretty good. A bit airy, so we're going to maybe tone that down a little bit. Ooh, I don't know, this is nice. I might tone it down just a little bit with the filter. I do have two filters. I'm going to put them in serial, so that way I can make a slight adjustment with the first one. And oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make it a nice little subtle envelope decrease of the cutoff filter. So I'm going to put the envelope up to about 23. We're going to come over here and mess with this. The attack will keep down. The decay, I'm going to go pretty similar to the amp envelope. And sustain will bring nice and low. Release will be the same. Okay, let's hear what we got. A moment ago, I brought down the cutoff a little bit more. I increased the attack a little bit so it doesn't come in for a little bit longer. That sounded pretty nice. Bring the sustain up just a little bit. I don't want it to be quite as dark when that envelope finishes. That's not bad. Make short work of this one, although actually no, we're not, because we're going to play with the modulation sequencer here in a moment. Let's bring a little bit of that sub oscillator in. Try a sine. Put on the depth. Ooh, listen to that beef. Not too much. or not, I'm going to shave a little bit of that off, just a tiny bit, because I don't want it to be too heavy. We're going to go to about 10. Let's hear what that sounds like. I think I got a 9 actually. Yeah, I think that sounds good. So it's there, but we reduced the rumble a little bit by adding a high pass filter for the second filter. So it's going to pass through the first filter. It's going to get a little bit of cutoff that is going to bring the cutoff knob down, because I have the filter envelope controlling that. So it's going to start here, and it's going to ease down a little bit. But the entire time from start to finish, the high pass filter there is going to just sweep off a little bit of that low end. Okay, well, we've used two envelopes. We actually have a third envelope, which I haven't used yet, of course. And the next thing I can do is use the LFOs, but I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to come over and play with the modulation sequencer. You get 3 of these. And what you get is essentially 16 steps, I believe. I think you may be able to pair them to get more. But right now you have it, I believe, 16 steps. God, it might be 32 apiece. Well, let's find out. But basically, you get each one of these steps. You can set whatever the destination parameter. You can set how much of an adjustment per each one of those steps. So let's go ahead and select mod 1. It does, oh, that's for the, never mind. I was looking at this black lettering, and that's actually for the vocoder setting. So this is mod number 1. It's currently set to pitch. So let's go ahead and, yep, 16 steps. Let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like, because it's going to be pretty horrible. So, oh, that's what the trigger. No, never mind. I thought there was a way to do, oh man, I thought there was. That's a bummer. You can't control which step you're affecting. You have to do it from this, which, yeah, that's no fun. Oh well. Okay. Well, we're in mod here. Let's just go through. Okay, so I have it set to pitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank it up here. It's going to sound awful, but I want you to hear what happens. We're going to come up to the seconds. There's got to be a better way to do this. I must be wrong. I'll have to look into it, because this is going to take too long. And if I was really good at it, I could probably do it quickly, getting the button combinations set up. But I'm only going to show you a few steps, because this is going to take too long, and I want to get to the actual sound. So this is 5 steps. Okay, prepare. It's going to be awful. All right, here it goes. Not awful yet, because I did not set up the velocity setting, but interesting. Patch 2. Oh. Step, sequence forward. I bet you. Run mode loop. Okay, let's save this real quick, because I think there's something I need to set up in the global settings. I don't think I would have lost my patch going to global settings, but just to be safe, let's try and find the timing page. I might have it set up to be waiting for MIDI in. It's been a while since I've used this old gal. Mod sequence patch, timber, nope. It's got to be in here somewhere. Global, MIDI, clock. It says auto. Internal, let's just set it to internal. Well, what do I got to do now? Let's see, back there, go to edits. Man, anybody know? Because I don't recall how to engage this. Forward, last step is 16. We can actually go less, but we can't go more right now. Sequencer 1. Set to pitch. What am I doing wrong? Well, darn. Let me see if I can come in through here and see if I have to select it, even though it is set to something. It's going to be EG 1 through 3, LFO, velocity, midwheel. No, it's not even in here either. So no, that is the way. You have to be in here. Mod 1. Darn, man. Last step. Sequence type forward. Yeah. Run mode loop. Let's just try one shot. Oh. That's right. I just remembered. Okay, well, I don't know if this is going to help this, but this is pretty cool. These knobs are how you control setting up the steps. So if we come back here to sequence 1 and we mess with step 1, see? Step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. That's right. That's right. This was great. And I just forgot. I'm going to set everyone. They're going to be opposite of each other. Fully open, fully closed. This does kind of wreak havoc when you have settings for like, so, you know, our amp envelope, our filter envelope. It's not changing those because this is performing a different action right now. But if you want to go back and adjust, it's a little bit of a pain because now you either have to pass it through or have it jump right to it depending on the settings. Okay, we're still not getting the step sequencer coming in. I don't remember what else I needed to do for this because it looks like it's there. What else did I need to do? It's not, I don't think it's a part of this. Step sequencer? No, that's the actual step sequencer. There is an arpeggiator in here too, which is great. And that's not turning on. Okay, that has to be the issue. Let's come over to timbre 1, page, timbre. Go turn that one on again. We're going to turn 2 off just so we can only hear 1. Okay, timbre 1. Let's select the arpeggiator. It's working here. Maybe it's because I have a pad, it's just not working for it. All right. Let's come back. I will have to think about this. Unfortunately, I do apologize. I don't know why this thing is not playing along. Let's see if I can just switch it to something else. What I wanted to do was affect filter 1, the cutoff, and step value. Okay, let's start messing with these. Step 1, get them pretty close to each other. Kind of keeping it all around the middle a little bit. Just slightly to the left and right. It's just subtle changes. But we are not getting anything. So, okay, I'll have to move on. I don't recall. It's the darndest thing when you have very complex synthesizers. Yeah. Man, I really wish I could have figured it out because I want to hear what it sounds like. Dang. Yeah, okay. Drop it. Move on. Let's just use some good old-fashioned LFOs. We're going to do a sample and hold. That's going to kind of get what I was looking for anyways. I just really wanted to use the mod sequencer to do it. We'll keep the shape in the center for now because it's sample and hold. It's going to be pretty wacky. We are not going to tempo sync. Nah. Not going to key sync either. We have it sample and hold. We're going to go to patch 3, I think, because did we use patch 2? We did not. Let's use patch 2. I'm going to set LFO 1 as our source. Destination will not be pitch. Well, here I can just... So I wonder if that's maybe part of the problem. It doesn't seem to be changing it afterwards. It's just doing one single... Oh, whatever. All right, let's do the cutoff filter. About 12. Very, very slow frequency, so let's increase that. now we can actually hear something, thankfully. It's kind of nice, but I usually like a triangle on a pad so that it's just like a nice little up and down. Very nice. You know what I said earlier about it not having a LFO delay? You know, the idea that you can kind of slowly bring in the LFO? Well, you can get around that by using these virtual patches. Let's go ahead and do that. We're going to source it from the third envelope, which they call EG3. Envelope generator 3. We're going to set it to LFO 1. Oh, we can only do the frequency. Oh, well, actually, no, I take that back. I think I can do... Yes. So patch 2 was our... I think this might work. Destination patch 2 internalized. This should be... Patch 2 was what we just used LFO 1 to affect the... what was it? The cutoff? Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use, this is kind of convoluted, I'm going to use the third envelope to slowly bring in the patch 2 intensity, which will then control how much of that LFO goes to the cutoff. So we're kind of piggybacking a double virtual patch here. Let's go ahead and increase this to about 20. I'm going to come back here and turn the frequency. We want to keep it there, but I want the intensity, which is right here. Make sure we're on patch 2. The intensity is going to be at 0, so we should get none of that. Let's hear. Well, I'm sorry, we're getting that now because of this guy. So if I take this away, I initialized or I made 0, so there is 0 intensity coming from patch 2 and patch 3, so we should hear clean. Yep. So if we go back to patch 2, you can see it is set to 0. Patch 3 is now going to use the envelope to control patch 2's intensity. I'm going to set this up to 20. We are going to go into, where are we going to go to? We got to go page mod EG. We're going to go to EG3. And this, unfortunately, we can't use any of the controls outside to control the third envelope. We got a third envelope, so I'm not complaining. But I have to do it here within the menu. So I'm going to take a nice little slow attack, equal decay, the sustain, and have it basically come in, start using the cutoff a little bit, and then fade it back out to nothing. And let's go ahead and set these to, let's say 75. We'll go 90 on that. Just in case we need to cut off a little early, we'll put a release in there. So that means if we don't get all the way through the decay stage down to a 0 sustain, which is effectively off, if we pull out early, we'll let the release stage take over. All right, pull my fingers off the key is what I should say. Ooh, it's like a shuddering breath. I like that. But I do want that attack to come in later, and I want that decay to be longer. I think we can leave a little bit of that intensity on the sustain, maybe 20. I think that sounds good. All right, let's hear. Ooh, man, we are so close. Let's go to back to patch 3 here again. We're going to bring the intensity down to about 15. Let me hear this. Very close, but I think we're going to go and set the attack a little bit longer on that envelope. I want that delay intensity to come in a little bit later. Yeah. Ooh, that's nice. Okay. We're good with this, I think, at this point, with the exception we're going to add some effects now. So let's go ahead and get these on. First thing, we have two options here. I think I'm going to mess a little bit with the EQ just to kind of... You know what? No. I'm getting blown up here. Let me just check. Oh, wow. Interesting. Not. It's got a text from an organization I would have zero affiliation with. I don't know why they thought I would give them money. But anyway. Oh, man, that is nice. I think we're sounding pretty good there. Okay, let's add some effects. We've got the... Definitely going to put some reverb on there, but I was thinking about doing the master reverb at the end. But let's go ahead and put some on there for now. But I think we could use a little stereo delay. Let's hear what we get. Okay, I'm going down here to affect the dry wet level. So that means how much of it is actually full delay line and how much of it is a clean no delay line. That's 60-40 right now, so just a little bit higher on the dry side. Okay, that's what we get for time. We have these both set to eighth notes. I'm going to go quarter note on one side. Actually, let's go quarter. You have a dot? Yeah, quarter. Well, we'll go... Interesting. They don't have dots. They do. Not for the ones I'm expecting to see it on. All right, well, let's do a 1/6, which is going to be a triplet style, and a 1/12, which is going to be a triplet style. Let's hear that. Wow. Listen to how much. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. Here's what it sounds like before. Pretty nice and full, but not a whole lot of, it's kind of sitting in the center. Turn that back on. Whoo, I'm excited already. Oh, listen to that. I mean, that to me is just lovely. Yes, small world, big things. I agree. I mean, that just opened it wide up. Okay, just for fun, let's put a little reverb on there just to see how much of a big kind of ambient wave we can get out of this thing. The reverb on the Korg RADIAS it's decent. It's usable. It totally works. I think it's a perfect match for the sound that you're getting out of this synthesizer. But I will be honest, if I was going to mix this or record it into my DAW, I would record that dry and I would use, various lovely modern reverbs like Valhalla, Eventide. I mean, there's too many reverbs out there today, but you can get such wonderful control and delicate sounds and big, huge, wide sounds with the software that these old hardware machines, they just can't compete. But if you're going for that particular sound, then they work great. And let's see, we get a fairly good amount of different reverb here. So we start with hall, we get plates, we got room. That's all we get. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was a few other on here, but I guess I'm wrong. So hall is almost always my choice on a pad just because I want something nice and big. We're going to split the dry wet, so half is going to be in the reverb, half is going to be dry. We've got edit 1 here is already set up for our reverb time, so let's go ahead and mess with that. Let's try 7 seconds. That's a pretty big sound, but not so crazy. I just want to see how big it's going to go. 10 seconds. I'll go down to 0.1, so, decent amount of length. Again, older hardware units, reverb tends to be one of those big, heavy calculation, heavy CPU effects, so they're not going to give you too much on these things, unfortunately, for the older ones. Let's hear. Pretty dang nice, man. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with that. Before I do anything else, I'm going to save that because I wouldn't want to spend any more time recreating that when I have a beautiful, perfect patch already. Woo, that's nice. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see. It is 9:15. I am going to try and crank out one lead sound. It's probably not going to be my best because I want to get 3 sounds out of this. Eventually, I want to be able to put enough time in there to make maybe 4 to 5 sounds per session like this, because I'm actually going to start a new stream where I bring in the new Electron tone verc that I just got, and I'm going to start multi-sampling those patches into the tone verc, and then maybe do a stream weekly if I can, where I would then take those sounds, those instruments I make, I multi-sample, and then create songs with it. I'm really excited about doing that. I had no idea the tone verc from Electron was going to have multi-sampling. I knew it was going to be a great sampler, so I figured I was going to do something like that with it, but once I saw it had multi-sampling, it was an instant buy. Yes, it's buggy as hell. Unfortunately, they did just do a patch, which helped out a lot, and it's going to get better. Electron is absolutely... They have my faith. I believe in them. They've done it over and over, where they've taken machines that have come out, which I don't really like. Every manufacturer does it these days, it seems like, but they come out not ready for prime time. I usually avoid buying them, but the tone verc really, really attracted me, and I really wanted it for doing this stuff. So I did pick it up, and I'm very excited. I'll have a new song hopefully by Friday for it, but I'm very excited to use it in this context, which will happen soon. So let's try and bust out one quick, super duper fast. I'm gonna write this again because I want to make sure I didn't miss it. All right. Yes. Okay. It's not even letting me do anything, so that means it's definitely there. Okay. Let's go into our timbre. So we're going to go into Edit, Page, Timbre, go down here and actually first turn this one off so we just hear the third timbre. And we are good. Let's go here to select the third timbre. Here we go. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and create a quick lead sound. If I had time, I'd also create a bass sound just so that we had kind of a full complement. As I mentioned before, this has a full drum machine in there. It is an Electribe basically squeezed inside here. Don't ask me how they did it. It's amazing. I don't think we'll have time. We definitely won't have time to build a drum patch, but I might be able to throw, maybe, let's just see. I might be able to throw something together so you can kind of hear all those sounds happening at the same time, because being multi-timbral, you can basically carve out sections of the keyboard where those specific timbres will play. So I could have a bass line walking over here while I play the keys, and maybe hit the pad in the center, and then at the very bottom I can have like a button to maybe kick off the drum sequencer. So I don't think we're going to get there today, but just an idea of what it can do. Okay, so let's create this lead sound. So I think saw is a good way to start. Let's go ahead and bring in our second oscillator, bring about halfway. Also going to be a saw, but I am going to tune it just a little bit. You know, I should look and see if there's actually a semi or a detune, but I don't think there is. I notice that a lot in the synthesizer. It's not really about having dedicated things like detune or dedicated LFO delays. They just give you so much modulation options and so many ways to kind of route things together that you can achieve those same things. You just don't get the dedicated parameter. So it takes a little bit longer. But the idea I think they're going for is they probably only had a limited amount of capacity and CPU and all that stuff to really make this what it was. So they figured, hey, you can get those. You just got to work a little bit harder for it so that we have more room to make more options. So I think it's kind of a good idea. That's me totally guessing, but I'm assuming that because they've sort of left out a few what I would consider fairly standard parameters. But again, you can still achieve that. You just have to work for it. So... see what our oscillator is. Not interesting. Okay. It's pretty strong already. Alright. Let's get a little bit of noise in there. Give it a little grime. Okay. You do get, if you choose noise from the oscillator section over here, you do get a lot of control, or not a lot, but some control over that, including like a filter, and kind of you can tweak which frequencies are coming out of that. When you just have noise over here, you just get noise. It's just a single, simple white noise. let's figure out what we can do here. So obviously we're going to bring in our filter. That's kind of our one of our, you know, easy to go with character additions here. Okay, let's find a nice little resting spot. And what I mean by that is before I add in the envelope, I want to figure out where I want my sound to finish, where I want it to be when it's all said and done. Right about there. Because what the filter is going to do, I'm using it in a positive fashion, is it's going to take that parameter and it's going to increase it to a certain point and then bring it back down. Think of it like a controlled wave. And how fast it increases is affected by the attack parameter. And if you set the attack all the way to the 0, or, you know, the complete, what would you call that? All the way to nothing, basically, let's just say, the attack happens instantaneously. So it's not like it's lifting that parameter up there. It is, but it's happening so fast that it sounds like the parameter is already up there. So we're going to leave the attack there. We're going to increase the EG, which is the envelope generator intensity. So you can hear already, this is what it sounds like with no envelope. We're going to increase it. So that's where I want it to be when it comes all the way open. So if I hit the sustain down, the release down, and I do a decay, you'll hear it basically start at that nice open sound, and then not slowly, mediumly quick, come down to the what it sounded like without any envelope. So I'll slow it down even more so you can hear it. Hear that? Let's bring the cutoff lower. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, since I know I'm going to be doing a lead sound, which usually tends to be a monophonic sound, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the unison. Let's hear what we got. We got initialized startup. Once you hit the unison, you're going to get automatically 2 voices, and this is where the detune comes in, but just for the unison mode. It's down to 10 cents, which is a very small amount of detune, and we have 2 voices, so we're just stacking 2 voices on top of each other. So that's interesting. I guess I didn't remember this, but it is still polyphonic. Dude. Well, that's great, because now I can really use that to open up, like, even the keyboard sound we did already might sound a little fuller. Not that it needs it. I thought we did a good job, but yeah. Wow, I don't know how I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, because you can assign it poly or mono right there. Well, great. Love when that happens, when you forget things are there or you didn't think they were in the first place. 6 voice is our top for our unison. Let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, we definitely need some portamento on there, so that's not bad. I'm actually going to increase the detune. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, that's not too much. Get a little spread here, so you're going to kind of take those voices and spread them out a little bit. So some of them are in the left, some are on the right a little bit more. Here's completely neutral in the center. Go ahead and spread it out. Again, by using the unison with the poly mode, my gosh, are we going to make some massive sounding chords. But we are in monophonic mode, so we're just going to squeeze this back. I'm going to go about 74. It's nice too, because you're going to have your lead generally in the center most times, not all the time, but that way if you use one of these detune functions and kind of spread it out a little bit, you make a little room for your bass, your kick drum, those things that are just smacking right in dead center. You have a lead, now that's kind of a little bit around them instead of being right on top of it. Gives a little bit more space and room for all those different sounds to have their, their little moment. Just for fun, I'm going to turn on the arpeggiator and hear what that sounds like. not getting all the play though, because we're not giving, using arpeggiator usually takes away the time that you need for the envelope. You're not getting that little bit of timbre change in there. And I'm actually going to bring this decay down. Where's the sustain at? 0. Let's bring the cutoff even lower and the EG up a little bit. There we go. So you'll notice something as I'm playing right now. When I strike once, keep doing that. It's nice and bright in the beginning, but if I hold this one down and then move to the next one, it's not restarting that envelope. So that's something called legato, or it's kind of effectively what's happening when you use legato. Legato being the idea that you play a note, and before you release that note, you start a second note. The reason that you would want that is if you were making, I mean, all sorts of sounds, but you didn't want that envelope to restart every time. You could. Obviously, with this kind of sound, we're going to want to increase the sustain if we're going to use the legato, because you can hear how far the volume goes down. That's helping. I increase the sustain of the filter a little bit, so that way we keep some of that volume if we choose to play in a legato fashion. I feel like I need to back off some of the attack on this. Maybe not on the filter. I like a lead sound that doesn't necessarily have a big stab attack in the beginning. Obviously, those are great too, but depending on your sound, that might actually be kind of nice. So I'm also going to come over here and start messing with the portamento. Portamento is basically that same concept of legato, but the idea is that instead of just affecting, say, the re-triggering of an envelope or a filter, or an envelope or a LFO, this now takes that same calculation between you playing together or individually, depending on how it's set. But the idea is that it's going to stretch the note to meet it. So think of like a violin player. Like if they're playing something and they're moving around, they're not generally just holding a note and like statically hitting those like this. They're usually moving a little bit, and you get this little kind of bends and shifts. And the idea is that you can kind of bend up to the note you need to be, or you can bend down to it. So let's go ahead and mess with just a little bit of portamento to here. Or let's go a lot so we can really hear what it's doing. You get a fair amount of control here. So we've got vibrato intensity, bend range. We got the little curve changes, which I like to do logarithmic soft. So you can hear that right there. Sounds like a ghost having a, I don't know, bad bathroom experience. Not what we want. Not what we want. So I'm going to shorten the time. I want it to get to the note that it needs to get to fairly quickly, because this is going to be a lead sound. If it's constantly shifting between, it sounds like that awful noise you just heard a minute ago, where it basically sounds completely atonal because it's never really hitting a chord tone. Okay, I'm liking that for the portamento, but I don't like, I'm changing my tune here on the filter because I think we can't have that much change in the cutoff, or we're going to basically have to set it so that every time I trigger a new note, it's going to re-trigger that envelope, which I don't want to do. So I'm trying to find a happy medium. Okay, that's better. Let's go ahead and do one thing real quick. Yeah, I'll just do it on the keyboard. I'm going to bring up the octave, down the octave. Cool, that's already sounding pretty good, and we haven't done that much. We've just messed with a few parameters so far. We still have a ton of stuff we could do here. Let me think. What else can we do that would make this sound even better? We do have another filter. I don't... You know what? Let's go ahead and try. Let's put it into serial. So that means we're going to go through filter 1. It's going to do its thing in filter 1, and it's going to immediately follow up with filter 2. So I'm going to go to a comb filter. A comb filter, if you think about a comb, you flip it upside down, you look at it, it's got a bunch of teeth. So if you were to like look through it, you're going to see some blockage and some clear. So you're going to see this kind of pattern of almost like, yeah, I guess you could say like teeth if you want. I don't know. A comb is a pretty good representation though, I think fits. And the idea is there is the comb as a filter is going to filter out some of those bands, but it's going to do it in this very kind of like jaggedy, you know, in and out kind of idea instead of having a big sweep of a low pass or high pass with a cutoff that nothing gets beyond it. This is just going to pluck out frequencies and give you a little bit of a, I don't know what you would call it, nasally, depending on what it sounds like. We'll hear. But it gives you some pretty cool options. So we're in comb filter. We're going to put our cutoff all the way open, resonance down. See what we There we go. I almost sound like I'm having some breakup in there. It's interesting. I don't really use a comb filter that often. Oh, I see. Ooh! I'm not sure I'm getting much out of that. There's gotta be a happy place in there for it. I'm hearing like the gate close. That's not bad. Yeah, something that's probably when I don't have the legato going, I think that's getting masked. You can hear that. I'm on the fence of just cutting it out altogether because I'm not liking that sound. But let's hear if I can fix it a little bit. Very phaser-esque. Ooh. Oh, man. No, I think we're just going to not do that at all. The comb filter does have its purposes, but for me right there, it wasn't working. Let's come in and let's put a little drive on this. I'm going to see if I can do this pre-filter. Yes. I also have this thing called punch level. That should increase the attack a little bit. Okay, I think what I need here is I need to come back and revisit this cutoff, bring down the intensity of the filter envelope, bring up or bring down the cutoff. That's better. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Man, if I could figure out why the modulation Sequencer is not working. You know what? Let's just try it. I just want to try it real quick. Maybe I can get this thing going. I don't know what I did wrong. Let's just see. Man, I gotta figure it out. I don't know. Key sync, timbre, voice. Oh! I don't know. Almost have a bass sound there. Okay, let's add some effects. And we're going to call it a night. A little wah, maybe? Let's get down to the wah type. What we got here? A Y cry. So I know it's a cry baby. I don't know what the Y means. RMA. No idea. Nope. Another crybaby with J this time, and a Vox. Man, they almost all sound identical except for that M Vox. It's also tripping there. It's hitting the limits, right? Yeah, it is. Sorry about that. Let me bring this down just a hair. Okay. Come back to FX1. Mod source. Here we go. We're going to do an LFO. It doesn't tell me which LFO. Maybe it has a built-in one. Oh, look at that. There you go. Response versus... Okay, sorry, that's probably clipping a little bit again. Bring that down. Okay, we need to brighten that up a little bit because it is sitting way too low. So maybe that's what the response was. Where is my wah frequency? Here we go. Volume up a little bit. That's too quiet. You know what? Nope. It's not doing it for me. Maybe we could have kept playing with that, but I just want something nice and simple. So we're going to, instead, we're going to go to, decimator? That's not too bad. Oh, somehow I just turned on the reverb. Not sure how that happened. Oh, what did I just do? Let's go back to the decimator, wherever that went. Hands were just moving too fast. Ooh, look at this. Oh, man. I wonder what FS stands for. FS. Fidelity, maybe? It says frequency. I'll have to look it up. Ooh. That sounds like Terminator, man. I love that. You can change the bit level all the way 24-bit. Down to... Woo, 4-bit. Ooh, boy. Let's try 11. Okay. Want a little more movement in this guy, so we're going to start adding some virtual patches. So we did put the decimator on there. I'm going to come back and do some delay in a moment, but I want to get this fixed first. Let's go to the source. We're going to take a LFO1, which I don't think we've used for anything. I'm going to set it to the filter type. No, the filter cutoff of filter 1. Intensity, let's try 10. We are at a very slow frequency. We're going to try about 1.5, 1.5, pretty close. There it is. And we are going to use a triangle, which already set up. Let's hear what this sounds like. Increase the frequency quite a bit to 4.38 hertz. Oh, that's too much. Let's mess with the attack over on the filter envelope a little bit. Synthetic ducks. I don't know what the heck that is. All right, let's add a little delay to it and see if we can maybe make this not sound so silly. Let's have fun with the delay. So we do have a stereo delay. I often reach for a stereo delay because, you know, if you're using delay in mixing, you often will use it as a send effect, meaning you're sending more than one instrument in there. Maybe for like ambient or just kind of particular kind of versions, styles of music, you might want that. But most times I'm going to do a stereo delay. But since this is a single sound, it's not a send effect. We're going to mess with it. So it's auto pan. Yeah, not for lead. Oh, that's we want stereo. Let's try the LCR. So left, center, right, and you can control the difference in those. Let's see, how about we make left and right the same. Oops, wrong way. And we do the center delay 1/16. 16th. Okay, we need to take this down for sure. We'll take that down to 1/8. Take that down to 1/8. We're going to bring down the level. And it's each. So let's bring them all down to, we'll do the center at 50. We'll do the left and right channel at 40. They should be fairly subtle. We got some feedback. Looks, for some reason, I can only affect the center feedback. Oh, yeah, interesting. Well, let's take that down to about 55. There we go. Okay. I gotta go back to a very... Couldn't take that quacky sound coming out of the slow attack filter envelope. Yeah, I would spend a lot. Leads are definitely my weakest point because I just find a lot of leads in modern music to be a little bit on the cheesy side. And because of that, I kind of associate a lot of the sounds I try to make in that realm too, because I guess that's what I hear the most. I don't know. I have a hard time making leads for synthesizers. I'm not entirely sure why. Now, pads, chords, keys, bass, sound effects, I feel like I'm pretty solid on those. Even making some drum sounds, I'm pretty decent. But yeah, leads. I need to work on leads. Let's see here. The one thing that's kind of hard too, I'm going to actually, before I do this, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the release a little bit. So we get a little bit of... Doesn't just fall off when I'm done. There we go. One thing that is a little bit difficult is trying to get a lead sound when I'm not playing along with something. Just making a lead sound on its own is pretty hard because I really have to, mostly a lead, I'm trying to figure out how to fit it into a song. So just doing one straight out without hearing something else can be challenging. Well, just for fun, let's go ahead and turn all of these patches on. What I would normally do if I had the time is I would separate them so they could have different, you know what, let's try and do it. Let's try and do it really quick. Okay, timbre. Well, let's go ahead and get this going. We want timbre, all of them on. So we got our keys, our pad, and our lead. So we go over to page zone. Okay, so the keys I'm going to keep. Let's stop them. Here, let's do this. C1. Let's make this sound go from C0. This one to, let's do this one all the way up to like C, G3. Stop this one at F sharp 3. Oh man, I might have this wrong. I can't quite remember. Everybody does a little bit different. Sometimes people consider middle C, C0. Sometimes it's C2. Let's see. Let's try F3. Let's figure out where this is exactly. There we go. Okay. That's nice. So from G up is my lead. I'm going to take this all the way down to... let's take that down to F2. And then we'll bring this one all the way up to F flat or E2. So F flat, which you don't really hear people say. So how am I going to play this? So that's a bit of a struggle too, as we now have to come here and try to figure out how I can increase. Okay. So let's go to each one. So this one was here. We're going to increase the tone. How do I do that? You know, I can't figure it out right now. It's there, but basically by playing here, I'm playing the lower register of that sound, but I want it to actually play a higher register, but focus it in this keyboard area, which I can do various different ways. That's really low bass, but that works for this sound right now, I guess. So, you know, that was my kind of sloppy take of that, but there's some cool sounds in there. I think it was a pretty decent run through. I think I want to get quicker at it so I can, like I said, I can get five sounds out of every machine I do, and then I'm going to multi-sample those into the Electron Toneverk and then make some songs with it, which is really what I love to do, is actually do compositions. So, of course, sound design too. Love that as well. So I think that's kind of a wrap for this one today. The Korg RADIAS, wonderful machine. As you can hear, I do need to go back. I want to just hear the pad again. I'm just going to crank that all the way open and then turn the other two off. Because that pad is lovely. Do I ever use the drum kit and another timbre as the vocoder, modulator, and carrier? No, I've not tried that. That's interesting. I know you can definitely internally use stuff for the vocoder, but I never thought about using the drum kit. Have you done that? Do you own a Radius and you've tried that before? That's a cool idea. Oh man. That is borderline like a rolling 80s Rompler pad, and I love it. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, you know, I will. I'll tell you what. I'm doing a rotation here, so I've got a lot of synthesizers, and this is the first time that the Radius has made an appearance. I'm about halfway through my collection. So it may be a little while, but I'll tell you what I want to do. I'm also considering creating even another stream where I mess around with drums. The drum synths I have, and this is definitely a drum synth when you get into that drum kit. I will definitely look into trying that vocoder. I think I'll practice that and see if I can get some cool sounds out of it. That sounds very interesting. I don't want to talk about it too much because it was kind of a secret thing that I had going on for a while. I'll say this much. I created a character and I dressed up as that character and I played music as that character and I kept my personal, to the best I could, who I really was, a secret. But the point is what I used for the voice, because obviously I was singing, but I want to mask that. I used the vocoder on this thing, and I was blown away how good the vocoder was on this. At one point I had vocal synth, I think it is, from Isotope. I think I had both of those, their first and second iterations of that, and I still prefer this thing. Now, I will say I have recently acquired, not recently, but I did eventually acquire a V-Synth XT, which also has a banging vocoder. I felt the overall sonic quality of that vocoder was actually a little better, but for what I was trying to get, the specific vocoder sound I wanted, this thing was amazing. I paired it with an old TC electronic, like one of those VoiceWorks, I think it was called, where VoiceWorks Live, where effectively it was adding, what am I trying to say? It was adding more pitch. What am I trying to say? Like a chorus. It was pitch shifting your voice and adding more of that, so you could get like a big chorus sound out of it. Using that with this vocoder was awesome. And yeah, I actually ended up selling the TC because I got something else that was doing fine too. But this will never go away. Even if I got tired of the synth sounds, which I probably will never do, the drum kits in this thing are amazing. Like I mentioned, it's basically an Electribe engine in there. And the fact that you can decide to use drum PCMs or the full-on VA section as a drum sound, it's incredible. And it kind of blows me away. No, it fully blows me away that in 2006, this was a product that you could buy. Because right now, I would struggle to think of a machine that came out that could do everything this does. I can't. Is there a good example? I mean, I cannot think. I mean, the V-Synth XT from Roland around the same time period does a lot of this too. I don't know if it was just what people were expecting in that time range in the early 2000s. They were like, I want a hardware sequencer that can do everything. And they delivered, but they don't do that as much anymore. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm just missing something, but for the price that you can find these for, which is around 600 to 700 bucks, maybe a little bit cheaper for just the module, maybe a little bit more money if you get the keyboard. The keyboard, don't bother. I mean, cool, yeah, if you get it, that's great, but any regular MIDI keyboard works just as good. There's nothing fancy or special about that keyboard. Fantastic machine. I mean, you can put together a full song and vocals and vocoder and all this stuff can be processed through there. This can be your single module. Now, I would not do that because I love having tons of different sounds and different versions, but maybe one day I'll make a completely solo Radius album. I don't know, but it is totally capable. I'm sorry I couldn't remember how to get the mod sequencer going, because if you heard that, you would love it. You get 3 of those. Imagine 16 steps, each one of these adjustable in a bipolar fashion, so 0 to 63 or 63 to 128, giving you a negative or positive effect on the dedicator or on the destination parameter. You get 3 of those. And then you get 2 LFOs. And then you get 3 envelope generators. And you get a 6 patch mod sequencer to use all that modulation in the patch sequencer to then send it out to different parameters. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy that this came out in 2006. And I don't think it did all that well for Korg, which is a sad thing because it's an amazing machine. I do have to jump off. Oh my God, it's almost 10 o'clock. I do want to say one very last thing about this synthesizer and another one that I owned. It was the Korg MS-2000, which, if I'm correct, it is the same engine that you will find in the Korg, what's that little Micro Korg. And also the Akai, no, that's different, sorry. The Micro Korg has the same engine as this MS-2000. The MS-2000 was an older synthesizer. They came up, I believe, with the miniaturized and full keyboard format of the micro Korg later. But I had one of those for a little while after I had this. It came in a big synth purchase, and so I had never really messed with it. I saw it, around. I know it was fairly famous for doing the soundtrack for Metroid, the GameCube version, Metroid Prime. And so I love that game. I love the sounds of it. And I was like, great, I'm going to get that synthesizer. And it came with a bundle. I got it and I sat down. It has the almost exact same format in terms of buttons and layouts and stuff. Obviously, it doesn't have all the features and stuff, a little bit different. I did like the sound, but for some reason, I just could not find a good way to use the filter. The filter just really let me down. So I sold it. And I don't regret it, because that filter is such an important part of sound design for me, that if the synth doesn't have a filter that really makes me feel good, like I'm hearing the frequencies go off nice and warm and the roll off, or really bright or aggressive or what have you, it really kills it. I will say that is still kind of a weakness on this guy. The filter is very usable. It's totally usable. It just doesn't have a real delicious character you're going to find in other synths. Specifically ones that use analog filters. So with that said, that's maybe my only complaint of it. This thing is beautiful. I love it. It is going to be with me until I take my last breath, and I will hopefully be able to pass it on to my kid one day, who I hope would love it too. But for now, it'll stay in my studio, and you will see it, I would say roughly, it's going to be a little while, maybe like a couple months, just because I have so many synthesizers to go through. But yeah, I am going to try the as suggested by Distal Phalanges. I'm going to use the drums to go into the vocoder. That is a pretty cool idea. I'm going to try that out, but I'm also going to bring out the drums as well in the next kind of iteration, probably just to go over some drum sounds with this, which is incredible. Anyway, I could talk all night about this. It's a great synthesizer. I hope you enjoyed, if you stuck around for a while. Oh, we got 4 viewers now, and I had like 1 or 2 most times, so I'm sorry, guys. I have to call it. I would love to stay longer to keep going on this, but I have to call it a night. Yeah, come see me next week. I haven't decided what synthesizer I'm going to use. What I'm thinking, I'm gonna basically get through my entire list that I have in my studio, and then maybe I'll put that list out and see if people want to tell me what they would like to see again sooner. But for the time being, I don't know. It might be the Behringer ARP 2600. Honestly, I think that's a fun one. Or maybe the Moog Minotaur might be next. One of those two. But for now, Korg RADIAS, lovely, lovely. Yes, you will hear some more of this soon. Thank you for joining. Y'all have a good night. Bye bye.